Hey Swarmers, great to have you back again. Or if this is your first visit, welcome to the Hive. Real quick, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss our next video. If you like our content, give us a thumbs up and maybe share. We honestly can't tell you how much that means to us. Today we're discussing the undeniable link between the gender equity movement and that of climate change action, or in fact, the fight for climate justice. Climate action truly is climate justice because it represents the fight for justice for every living thing on the planet, and indeed the planet itself. Climate change affects populations across the globe in vastly disparate ways. The poor are particularly vulnerable and are inarguably affected in a far greater way than the wealthy. Currently, 70% of the globe's poorest people are women and children. If your brain jumped right to developing countries when you heard this stat, think again. This is also true in the United States. In 2016, households of single women caring for children had a poverty rate double that of households of single men caring for children. Women of colour experienced poverty up to 3 times more than white men, and transgender folks had poverty rates double that of the general population. The frequency of climate-related disasters is increasing as we plunge deeper into the climate crisis, and female-identifying folks will continue to be the ones left behind. They remain predominantly the world's caregivers, either in the family home or making up the majority of paid caregivers in nursing and healthcare fields. In the 1991 devastating cyclone and flood in Bangladesh, 90% of the victims who perished were female. In the 2004 tsunami in Sumatra, 75% of the dead were female. Apart from helping others as a reason for this, it's also because in many places across the globe, the women of society are not taught to swim. They don't receive the message to evacuate due to being housebound, or boys are given preferential treatment over girls in rescue efforts. The onward impact of the loss of these women means that children are at higher risk of infant mortality, being exploited into such horrors as human trafficking, or often have their education neglected. In 2003, the European heatwave, we saw a total excess mortality for women of 75% more than that of men. So this is not just a developing world issue. After an environmental disaster, there are yet further negative implications for women. Sexual assault, rape, sexual exploitation, and domestic violence all often increase. In terms of education, the lack of education for girls worldwide was highlighted very successfully by activist Malala Yousafzai. But it remains a serious problem throughout the world, especially but not exclusively in developing countries. Sometimes the decision to limit education for girls is cultural, believing that women belong only in domestic spaces. But education for girls is also limited when budgets are tight. If there's a choice between sending a boy or a girl to school, the boy will usually be sent because he will very often have the highest earning potential. This lack of education also extends to reproductive education, health, and family planning, ensuring women are then kept in domestic, poorly paid or non-paid work, thereby perpetuating the lack of education and then the poverty. The thing is, empowerment of women has long had positive, widespread effects. With the women's right to vote in America came an immediate increase in spending on public health, and that correlated to a drastic drop in childhood mortality rates. With the increasing intensity of the climate crisis, we will see decreasing food security. Crops will become less reliable and less diverse. If food is scarce, who goes without? Well, if the girls and women aren't the main breadwinners, they don't need sustenance, right? So women make up 60% of the global population who are hungry. And there's also disparity in economic gains to be had from food. Women are 43% of the agricultural workforce in the developing countries, but they yield 20 to 30% less than their male counterparts because they're forbidden from farming the best soils, they can't access the seeds or fertilizers or the equipment. According to the EU Commissioner for International Cooperation and Development, if female farmers had the same access to resources as their male farmers, we could see a reduction in hungry people of the world of 150 million. Although women are at the forefront of climate change activism, understanding climate science, acknowledging the need to implement key climate-friendly actions into their lives, and questioning the efficacy of current climate change policies, they remain heavily underrepresented in climate change policy making, particularly in the transport, urban planning and energy sectors. Climate justice is reliant on gender justice and vice versa. We're asking you now, no matter your gender, to become active in both these symbiotic movements. Climate justice needs gender justice. The future of human life on this planet is absolutely intrinsically dependent on it. Thanks for joining us, Swarmers. We appreciate you. Take care, stay safe and stay sustainable. And why don't you make a point this week of doing something which raises up another female identifying human? I'm sure they would appreciate it. See you next time.